How did you find out that he passed away? I mean, I know he was going for his father's funeral, correct?
Yeah, he was going for his father's funeral, and he didn't stay in his parents' house. He always stayed in a hotel in France. I took him to the airport, and he flew back to France, and he wasn't there very long, and his father passed away. And then he realized that it was his mother's birthday, and the ironic thing is he couldn't remember my birthday either, and they were the same day. So they were giving her the family was giving her a birthday party at a restaurant, so, you know, he stayed for that. And then when he had a driver, the same driver would pick him up and take him down to his parents' place, and basically just stayed there as one of the boys, because, you know, I mean, Andre spent a lot of time with, there was 4 gentlemen that he went to kindergarten with, and they've been friends his whole life. And every time he'd come into town, they'd all go down to the same place. It was like a restaurant bar, and they would play cribbage.
Of course.
And so, you know, and a couple of times they'd decide, like, the mushrooms were fresh, so they'd go over to Belgium and get mushrooms, and, you know, the driver would take them over there and that type of thing. You know, whatever Andre did, his driver was there with him. And he dropped him off at the hotel. He went inside, you know, Andre had a drink, and you know, he said, pick me up at, I don't know, like 9 in the morning or something like that. And his driver left and came back, and 9 in the morning, Andre wasn't there waiting for him. And if Andre told you that he'd be someplace at 1:15, he was there at 1:15. Never wore a watch or anything like that. He had one, but he very seldom wore it. And but he was punctual. And so he kept ringing the room, and then when he couldn't get an answer, he went to the room, banged on the door, couldn't get an answer, got up with the police office, the hotel staff. They opened the door, and of course, you know, the chain was on the door, and they could see him in bed, but he wasn't moving. And one thing Andre did was he would tear apart a bed sleeping at night.
Oh, I can imagine.
The covers were in all different directions and everything. And Andre, the sheet was just perfectly flat over him. They figured that as soon as he laid down, the pressure built up and stopped his heart. And so then I was at work. I was at the travel agency, and I got a call from Frenchie, and he said that Andre's lawyer had called, and he had received a call from France saying that Andre had died.
So, I mean, it's, in a way, you're kind of like, it's so nice that he got to go so peacefully. It wasn't in the ring or anything like that. He was laying asleep, but visiting family, mother's birthday, 46 years old. Do you think that he had anything unfinished that he still wanted to do, or any place he wanted to go?
I mean, he made plans all of the time for different things, but he was living the life that he wanted. You know, he loved being a wrestler. He loved having friends all over the world. You know, there wasn't any place he could go that he didn't know somebody that he could visit with, and
that's pretty cool.
That type of thing, yeah. But no, I don't think that he died with any regrets.
I had read that everybody wanted to bury Andre, but you were very steadfast in saying that you thought he should be cremated and he wanted to be cremated. Can you tell us about that?
Well, his family, you know, his father had just died, and he was buried in the family cemetery, and they wanted Andre to be buried in the family cemetery, and Andre did not want to be buried. He wanted to be cremated. We talked about that several times.
Why was that?
He just did not like, you either want to be buried or you don't, you know, and he did not want to be buried in a coffin.
But it didn't have anything to do with like being worried about grave robbers or anything like that. Later on, I've read some people worry about that.
And I told, you know, the lawyer, through the lawyer, I told his family, you know, as long as they cremate him, they could bury his ashes in the family cemetery.
Yeah.
But they were adamant that they did not want him cremated, and they weren't going to get him cremated. And then the lawyer was trying to get his body cremated to send it over here, and the funeral home there said that there wasn't a crematorium big enough to cremate him.
Which means what?
Which is silly.
Yeah, like,
you know. And so his body was they made a coffin to have the memorial service and stuff, and Andre was shipped back to, we were on the same plane from France to Philadelphia or Pennsylvania or someplace up there, and then they went to put his coffin in the plane going from Philadelphia to Charlotte, and they couldn't get the coffin into the plane because it was so big.
Wow.
And so he stayed there, and you know, I came home, and then a dear friend of ours who used to be a police officer, but at the time he had like a rental car place. He had retired and he had a rental car place, and he told two of his workers to take the seats out of the van, and he sent them up to Charlotte to pick up Andre's body and brought it to Southern Pines, and he was cremated at the crematorium in Southern Pines.
Okay.
And he had, I think the average is like 7 pounds of ashes for a average person, and he was well above 9 pounds.